as we move into the new year, starting on time. Can we finish on time is another question that is yet to be determined. So sleep workshop. There's a lot of factors that affect our sleep, but why are we even talking about sleep first is where I want to start. And the reason for that, as a chiropractor, I think especially if you've been a patient for a little while, you hopefully are starting to understand or have understood for a while that our ultimate goal for our patients is not to eliminate aches and pains. It's not to make your back feel better or your neck feel better or whatever. We want those things for you, but ultimately our goal is to help your body function and heal at its full potential. And so sleeping, if we're trying to heal, sleeping is the time where we do most of our healing. And if we're going to function at our full potential, we have to heal. Because inevitably life's slips and falls and bumps and bruises and aches and pains and colds and flus are inevitable. They're going to happen. It's not a matter of avoiding those things, but it's that we heal and recover quickly so that we can get back to living our best life. Does that make sense to everybody? And so I talk to patients quite regularly about sleep. Again, if you've been a patient for a while, it's one of the questions we ask you at your progress exams and your wellness checkups is, hey, how are you sleeping? Because it's such a crucial measure of how well your body's healing. And so when patients see improvements in sleep, which is very, very common, it's oftentimes one of the first changes we see for a patient, is that they might say, hey, I came in with really bad headaches, neck pain, back pain, an autoimmune condition, digestive issues. Those are the primary symptoms that drove me to the office that they're hoping to see improve. And yet it's the first thing they notice after the first adjustment sometimes. Sometimes it's after a week or a month. They'll say, I'm definitely sleeping better. Even though my other primary concern might not have improved a lot yet, I'm already sleeping better. And that tells us that we're on the right track right away for so many of our patients. And so it's such a crucial component to health and to healing. And so, as we're talking through this, we're going to talk a little bit periodically about circadian rhythm and what that is and what it means and why it's important. And it's, I like, looking up history of words and origins and understanding this stuff. So the word circadian actually comes from the Latin circa, meaning around, or approximately, and dies, which means day. So it's the approximate cycle of your day. That's where we get that terminology from. But it's so important because it plays a pivotal role in regulating our hormones, regulating different changes in our body temperature, neurotransmitters, different things that if you track how those hormones and neurotransmitters and things like that change throughout the course of the day, there's a natural rhythm and a cycle to that. And that's tied back to our circadian rhythm. And so it has an effect on literally every single cell in our body. And if we have irregular circadian rhythm, there's research that ties that directly to sickness and disease. That we see that there's a direct correlation, again, where we started the conversation a moment ago. If we're not sleeping well, we can't heal and recover. And if we don't heal and recover well, inevitably, that's going to lead to problems. Does that make sense to everybody? And so it all comes back to this. When we look at the data of why this is even an important topic to talk about, 50 to 70 million Americans have known diagnosed sleep disorders. It's a boatload. 1 in 3 adults do not get adequate amounts of sleep, and 40% of adults admit to accidentally falling asleep during the day. I hope you're not driving when that happens, right? So there's obviously a problem there, but really where is that coming from? That's really what we're going to talk about, is getting to the root of that. Thank you, Nick. And so again, we've said this a little bit, but specifically what sort of problems do we know are linked directly to this? Heart disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, stroke, obesity. These are some of the primary things we see. We're going to talk and show you some specifics later of how all of this actually leads to most neurodegenerative diseases are tied back to this. We're going to show you 2 really interesting videos, and I'm going to tie all that together, where when we're not sleeping well, it significantly increases the chances of early stages, brain fog, forgetfulness, etc. And eventually, if those things don't get corrected, there's a deterioration and a cascade of events that leads down the path of things like Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, etc., these neurodegenerative diseases. So what are some early warning signs that you might not be sleeping well? Well, Is your blood pressure going up? Are you unable to focus or remember things as well as you used to? Frequent coughs, colds, flus, etc. You find yourself sleeping in significantly later on the weekends. That's a big one. If you're, again, we're talking about circadian, what's the second word? Rhythm. If you mess up the rhythm, that's an indicator that there's a problem. Blood sugar issues, can't lose the weight all of a sudden. You're consuming caffeine in an attempt, it doesn't say this, in an attempt to boost your energy. We're going to talk about caffeine consumption a little bit. I'm not opposed to a cup of coffee or two. But if you're like, I have to have that because I'm dragging versus I just enjoy a cup of coffee, there's a big difference. If you're going for the energy drink, the soda pop, the whatever, specifically because you're hoping for that boost, that's an indicator that there's a problem. You can't stop hitting the snooze button. And this has never been me, but if you're irritable or moody, quit. All the spouses just... And so it's not just about the sleep itself, but you can see how this starts to extend into so many other aspects of our life and our health and our healing. And so I'm going to play this cool video here for you, and this is going to start to set the stage for really to a bigger degree why this is so crucial. Because, again, as I said a moment ago, if this problem persists, what starts out as a small problem as I'm not sleeping while I'm tired, we know every chronic disease starts simple, and doing that over a long enough period of time leads to a bigger problem, right? And so this is going to explain some of that, and it's going to talk about some really cool research. So I'm going to hope everything works appropriately.
DecisionDx, the melanoma test, provides personalized information specific to your cancer. There's over...
Bad news for all of us insomniacs out here, but as we do more research into the brain, we're increasingly realizing that sleep is one of the most essential things we need to be functioning, healthy human beings. And new research looks into how sleep helps us maintain clean brains. But what does that mean? And why is that important? Well, to understand this latest news, we have to go back to 2013, when a study of mouse brains found that while those furry little rodents slept, neurotoxic waste products got swept away. Some kind of cleaning crew comes in overnight and gets rid of built-up stuff like beta amyloid, that sticky peptide that can aggregate into plaques and disrupt brain function. Amyloid plaques are highly associated with the occurrence of diseases like Alzheimer's, and the amyloid hypothesis suggests that amyloid plaques could be the primary cause of that devastating disease. So it's real nice that your brain can get rid of it while you sleep. That 2013 study saw an interesting relationship. While the mice slept, their lymphatic systems opened up. This let in a big wash of cerebrospinal fluid, or CSF, which seemed to clear these waste products away. And just so you know, CSF is a watery, clear substance that surrounds your brain and spinal cord and acts kind of like a little cushion to protect your brain and provide you with nutrients. A team at Boston University took this 2013 finding and wanted to know exactly how. In this new study they published in Science, the researchers delved into what about sleep was so special. Why did a sleep state in particular allow for these changes in the brain? The team got human participants to fall asleep inside an fMRI machine, which seems like quite a feat in itself, and which let the team measure both the blood oxygen levels in the participants' brains and show the flux of cerebrospinal fluid. They also measured the electrical currents in subjects' brains using an EEG cap. The results gave the team a pretty clear answer, one that came in waves. We've been finding out more over the past several years about the phases our brains go through while we sleep, and how those phases are essential to information processing and memory formation. And it turns out it's not just during rapid eye movement sleep or REM sleep that our brains are consolidating information and committing it to our long-term memory, but they're doing it during non-REM sleep too. And in humans, these two states of sleep, REM and non-REM, alternate throughout the night. Non-REM sleep is divided into 3 stages, and that third stage is our deepest state of sleep, called slow-wave sleep. During slow-wave sleep, electrical activity slows down and syncs up. So our neurons start to fire in sync with one another at quite a slow frequency that neuroscientists call delta waves. And while slow-wave sleep has been shown to be essential to memory formation, this latest study is the first to demonstrate exactly how those slow waves keep our brains clean and healthy. From all of their many measurements, the Boston team saw that during slow-wave sleep, the brain was actually being washed by waves of cerebrospinal fluid, like a little free nighttime spa for your brain. See, when neurons start to fire in sync, they're all electrically active at the same time, and that means there's empty time in between activity. When those neurons aren't firing, they need less oxygen, so less blood is flowing to the brain, but cerebrospinal fluid comes in and fills in that extra space. So this pattern in CSF flow is intrinsically linked to neuron firing. The neurons light up, the neurons go dark, the CSF comes in, the CSF goes out, it's all very relaxing. This study not only found a direct relationship between electrical activity in the brain and this CSF cleansing mechanism, but also confirmed that an increase in CSF is linked to an increased clearing of neurotoxic waste products like beta amyloid. This indicates that sleep, and slow wave sleep in particular, is essential to clearing out all the gunk in your brain garbage, if you will. And the thing is, we still don't understand a whole lot about neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's. We know that we see these buildups of amyloid plaques. We know that a protein called tau causes damage to neurons, but so far, our forays into developing treatments that target those variables haven't been very fruitful. So improved understanding, like this new study provides, of how the brain clears out toxic buildup naturally could help us combat neurodegenerative diseases in novel and innovative ways. Plus, it's just a huge inspiration to get better sleep and more of it. I'm going to get right on that. If you want to learn more about Alzheimer's, check out this video here from our series Sick, and make sure you...
I'm excited.
This is absolutely going to change the field.
For the first time, we'll actually be able to start answering some of those questions that we've always wondered about.
NASA just showed off the first.
There we go. What happened? Hold on, I'm going to make sense of all that here in just a second for you. If I can make my computer work again. Come on.
Subscribe to Secret for all.
There we go. So, what did that mean? Yeah, so in a nutshell, what she was just talking about, and she said a couple of really important things I'm going to pull out of there. In a nutshell, what she was saying is that we know, she said at the end there, she's kind of like, so we don't really know, but we kind of know. But if you actually use deductive reasoning, you can make perfect sense out of all of this. So she said that as we sleep at night, we know, let me back up, we know that plaque buildup is an associated factor, let's say, with, again, Alzheimer's, dementia, etc., right? We know that. This is very well established. We know, and she said it there, that as we have metabolic function, which is just the normal everyday function of our cells, that with that comes waste products. And those waste products have to be washed away. And one of those is that amyloid that she talked about, right? Which leads to the plaquing. And so if we wash that out of the system, if we can get rid of those waste products, right? Then we reduce the plaquing. And that happens when we sleep at night. There's a natural change. So when we're awake, our body requires nutrients and oxygen to be able to have metabolic function, for the neurons to fire and do their job. So there's increased blood supply to bring the oxygen and nutrients in. And then when we go to sleep at night, blood supply slows down because we have less neuron firing and the CSF flow increases, so we get a washing effect. That's what she said in a nutshell, right? And so what she's saying is, if we're getting that good, consistent, different types of sleep, we get this, again, cyclical sleep, rhythm, right, of REM sleep and non-REM sleep, and that's back and forth throughout the course of the night, that if we get those waves and those rhythms happening properly, that we're going to essentially pressure wash our brain to get all the junk out. You're going to get the plaque buildup out, and you're going to get the byproducts out of your brain, which is going to significantly decrease the chances that you end up with one of these neurodegenerative diseases. Does that make sense to everybody? And so that really sets the stage for long-term. Why are the things we're talking about important? This is one piece of the puzzle of how that all works. We're going to put several of these pieces together as we go. And so what really causes the sleep issues now? We got to dig in. So we know that sleep's important, and we've sort of set the stage for, we know that if we're not sleeping, it leads to some of these chronic disease, heart disease, cancer, or heart disease, diabetes, obesity, etc. Then if that persists, we end up with neurodegenerative diseases. But what's the root cause? We know those are the long-term problems. Now, why aren't we sleeping? Because if we can just sleep better, we know that we're going to start to improve our long-term outcomes in all of those areas. So one of the biggest factors, and I don't think this is going to come as a shock to anybody, but it is about how do we address it, is stress. But that stress can come from a lot of places, right? When we say the word stress, most people think about, oh, I got to pay the bills, and I got to get here, and I got there, and I got to... And this time of year, right? Like, why isn't this room a little bit bigger tonight? Why aren't there a few more people here? Because everybody's like, I got a million. I mean, one lady came in and she's like, I really wanted to come. I got a Christmas party to go to. And then I got another one tomorrow and another one the day after that. And I'm like, good Lord. Tell some of y'all, no, I ain't coming. But where do these stress factors come from? It's not just about the mental or emotional, like I got to go, and do, right? Poor diet, certain lifestyle choices, certain medications can actually cause different stressors in the body. All of that stuff can affect the way that we actually sleep at night, whether we realize it or not. I can personally attest to the fact that I have tracked in different seasons of my life that my amount of physical exercise and what I'm eating will have a direct effect on how well I sleep. Not necessarily like a day, like if I don't exercise I don't have to exercise 7 days a week to get a good night's sleep. But if all of a sudden I'm off track and I'm only exercising maybe a quick workout once a week, or maybe I even go a couple of weeks straight without really making sure that I challenge my body with exercise in some capacity, I'll start not sleeping well. Nutritionally, it's not that if I had one meal, I know I had like one piece of pie at Thanksgiving. I didn't have a terrible night's sleep that night because of that. But if I find myself suddenly getting off track more often than not, more consistently eating things I would normally not eat, right? Consuming way too much, way more sugar or whatever, all of a sudden I recognize I'm not sleeping as well. And it's a very obvious, I've doing what I do, right? I have the opportunity to use myself as a guinea pig. Right? And so I've been able to track these things at different seasons. So I can attribute or can speak to a lot of this firsthand. And so we got to think of it like this. Again, the not sleeping isn't the real problem. It's the check engine light coming on. It's a symptom. Right? The back pain, the headache is not the problem. It's the check engine light. What is the root cause of the problem? You have to identify why you're not sleeping well. Where is that coming from? And fix the root cause. Because there's no supplement that'll fix it. You can't take more melatonin, something your body naturally produces on its own anyway, and expect to sleep better long term. Because inevitably your body's going to adapt. If you don't fix the root, it's not that the melatonin isn't working. If you don't fix the root cause, I've got a root cause issue, I should be functioning at this level. I've got an interference that's caused my function to decrease. I take melatonin so I'm sleeping better, but the real root cause that led me down this path hasn't been corrected. So where is this going to keep going? The root cause is going to keep dragging me down. And then all of a sudden there's no amount of melatonin that'll help you sleep at night. There's no amount of CBD that will correct the lifestyle problem that's leading to the sleep problem that leads to the chronic disease later. There's not enough NyQuil in the world to correct. In fact, I would argue that the ingredients in the NyQuil long-term will add to the toxicity that causes more problems. So we've got to get to the root cause. So as we look at stress, now we're going to get into this, the neurological effect and aspect of stress. Our sympathetic versus our parasympathetic nerve system, right? So when we look at this, sympathetic is that fight or flight response, right? If the fire alarm goes off, everybody's sympathetic nervous system is going to kick up. Sympathetic nerve system, the fight or flight, we know exactly how that affects our physiology. There's very consistent, measurable changes that happen. If the fire alarm goes off or a tiger comes walking down the hallway here, there's certain functions in your body that will shut off almost immediately when your body perceives that danger. Because those functions are non-essential in the fight or flight emergency situation. So what shuts off? Your digestion shuts off. Your body will divert all energy from the digestive process. You will not digest food. You will not be in any danger of a bowel movement unless it's so bad that your fear causes you to your pants. right? You're not going to go to the bathroom, your bladder, that sort of stuff shuts off, right? Your immune system shuts down. You don't need to worry about the virus in the air if you don't get away from the tiger, right? There's changes that happen. Heart rate goes up, so we've got an elevated heart rate, elevated blood pressure, pupils dilate. There's all these very specific, consistent, measurable changes for every single person when they find themselves in a fight or flight situation. Okay? So we know that happens. So think about that long term. If you're in a chronic stressed state, again, extrapolate this out. Use logical thinking here. Well, if those are the changes that happen to my body when I'm in an emergency stressed out state, what happens if I'm chronically stressed out at a slightly lower level? So my heart rate doesn't shoot up. We're like, if the tiger or the fire alarm goes off, we're like, brrr, right? You're not there, but you are in a chronically stressed state, potentially due to poor choices that we're making. Does that make sense to everybody? What does that lead to long term? Well, there's your high blood pressure. There's your cholesterol problems. There's your not sleeping well. There's your, again, your digestion shuts down. Why is it that I'm gaining weight and can't lose weight and I've got bloating and discomfort all the time and I don't go to the bathroom like I used to? You're chronically stressed out. Again, and there can be various reasons for that. Versus, just to compare and contrast, the parasympathetic nerve system and state of being. Parasympathetic, so instead of fight or flight, we call parasympathetic is your rest and relax, or rest and digest is how I like to say it. That's the state of being where we can rest. If the fire alarm's going off, ain't nobody sleeping, right? If you know the tiger's right outside the door, you're probably not falling asleep very easily, right? So we get into that parasympathetic dominance in our nerve system, we can sleep better. Our digestion's working. That's when our immune system can do its job, right? And that's where heart rate lowers, respiratory rate lowers, blood pressure lowers, digestion increases, insulin sensitivity changes, et cetera, right? Hormones change. Is everybody with me on this? And that's where we want to spend the majority of our life, is in that state of being. And the sympathetic fight or flight response should only happen in true emergencies, or let's say you're exercising, right? When you go to exercise and challenge your body, you're going to shift into that state of being. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay, so poor sleep, I think you guys have probably all grasped that from what I just said. Overactive sympathetic nervous system. We're in sympathetic dominance. We're in a fight or flight state consistently because we've stressed our body. And so if our nerve system is stressed or our body is stressed in some capacity, we shift into that state of being. And so there's a handful of things we can address to help correct that. So if you simply lived in alignment with God's design, right, then your body's going to function the way that it should. Right? Because we're not innately designed to have poor sleep issues, heart disease, obesity, hormone issues, diabetes, et cetera. Right? This isn't just the way God made you. If you've been told that, that's garbage. That's a lie. You're not innately wired to being sick. So, how does that work? Well, your nerve system works the way that it should, because that's how God designed us. As I'm talking about, when you're in that different sympathetic or parasympathetic, that's the state of function. What part of the nerve system is dominant in your body? If that nerve system is balanced, you should be able to shift back and forth appropriately. Again, the fire alarm, you shift into sympathetic, you get out of the building, everything calms down, everybody's okay, you count all your kids, everybody's here, we're good, and you shift back into parasympathetic relatively quickly. We get stuck, which means there's an imbalance there. So if your nerve system's working like it should, if you're moving your body like it should, we're designed for movement. We're not designed to sit all day. We're not designed to sit in a computer chair all day. We're not designed to sit behind a steering wheel all day long, stare at a computer screen or a cell phone all day long, yet that's how so many of us live. Sometimes not by our own choice. It might be your job, but then you've got to overcompensate for that, because if we're getting back to the way God designed us to be, we obviously wouldn't sit and stare at a computer screen all day because they've only existed for the last 50 years, okay? And as we've touched on a little bit already, we weren't exposed to so much junk, so many toxins. Again, those waste products, those byproducts, those different toxins getting stuck in the brain, that's a big part of those neurodegenerative diseases. And so then we'd end up sleeping better too, which would then allow our body to heal like it's supposed to. And so what does that look like? So 3 steps to fixing your sleep, okay? So number 1, simple stuff, move your body and eat right, all right? So we'll go through a couple of different components on eating and nutrition, specifically how it affects sleep, and then I'll give you guys an opportunity to plug into something upcoming if you want to get some more info. But simple stuff, eliminate these sorts of things before bed, right? The refined carbs, the sugary sweets, the juice, the high glycemic fruits. Why? Sugar is an anti-nutrient, right? When you eat sugar, what happens is you spike your insulin production, and that spikes cortisol simultaneously. And cortisol is your what hormone? Your stress hormone, right? I think we've covered why that matters at this point, okay? So we know eating these foods actually causes a stress response in the body. So if we're eating them right before we expect to lay down and go to bed, which is what we tend to do, right? When do we have dessert? We don't have it at breakfast, right? Or lunch usually. We have it at dinner. So it's 6, 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night. We're having some sort of sweet treat. And they're like, man, why can't I sleep at night? Well, you've just put your body into a fight or flight response, okay? So we want to avoid those sugary things. And even, again, I think it's the very first bullet there is the refined carbs. Even any sort of floury. So like I would challenge you even to think about, I don't want to eat as many like things like white potatoes, pastas, breads, crackers, even with my dinner. Because if I eat enough of that at 6 o'clock in the evening even, which for me would have, my whole life, 6 o'clock would be an early dinner, okay, right? So I don't want to eat those things at that point and then expect to be able to go to sleep in a couple hours. It's going to cause a problem there. Does that make sense? So even thinking about what do I want to eat for dinner? Probably more clean protein and veggies, right? And less of those refined carbs anyway. Even if, and so this is, yeah. Anyway, I'll leave it. Clean protein and veggies and good fats. No, so that's just it. We shouldn't really be snacking. And if you are, then, like a Granny Smith apple. So it talks about high glycemic fruits. A Granny Smith apple, less sugar, right? Carrots and peanut butter. Good peanut butter with like peanuts and some salt. Celery and peanut butter. Apples and peanut butter, right? What about fun stuff? Well, those are fun to me. I like an apple and peanut butter. That's delicious. See, this is part of the challenge, though, for a lot of us, right? Ooh, this is so good. I could get derailed here, and I'll try not to. This is why you're here. Sometimes it's just recognizing that the choices we're making are causing problems we didn't know they were causing, and that's the simple leverage we need to go, okay, I'll make a change. I didn't realize that what I was eating was the underlying root cause of some of my chronic problems. Right? I've had patients come in and I go, you know why your back still hurts? You're overweight and you aren't making the nutritional changes that I told you to, and so you're chronically inflamed because of the poor nutritional choices, and the excess weight is putting stress on your lower spine, and you want me to fix it. And sometimes it's just having that recognition that's something that you're in control of, that you didn't realize was contributing. Once you know better, you can do better. So you ask me, what about fun stuff? And I say, well, to me, what's fun is waking up feeling good, playing with my kids, coming to work and taking care of you all, going home, feeling good enough to play with my kids, hang out with my wife, and get a good night's sleep again, and do it all over again tomorrow. Get up and exercise and play with my kids and come to work. To me, that's more valuable. Now, it took me some time to get there. Deep down inside of what appears to be a relatively fit guy, I'm not setting any records, but is a fat kid who likes cake and cookies and donuts and all the things that everybody else likes, the fun stuff. Right? Exactly. But what I've learned is that, I said it earlier, that I can directly correlate my nutrition choices to whether or not I sleep good and have good energy and feel good throughout the day. I can directly correlate my exercise routine to whether or not I sleep good and have good energy and of course, good mood and so on, right? I mean, none of you want to come in here and get adjusted by me if I'm like, what's up, Stan? How are you? Yeah. All right. See you next time. Pay the lady at the front. Nobody wants that chiropractor. I hope that you all appreciate that when you come in. For the most part, we're not perfect, but it's like, hey, welcome to the office. It's good to see you again. Come on in, Tony. You come to the table. Hey, great to see you. How are things going? Did you do anything fun for Thanksgiving? All right, power's on. We'll see you next time. Merry Christmas, right? Good energy. That actually takes, do you guys realize that the nutrition choices I make, that's part of why I make them? I make those choices not just because it tastes good to me, but because it affects so many other aspects of my life. And once you have that realization, now you've got a bigger motivating factor, and it's easier to walk away from the donut. It's easier to walk away from the dessert table at Thanksgiving and Christmas. I promise you it will be. But it does take some time, and you have to continue to drive that home that you see that for yourself. It might not happen this Christmas. I don't know if you'll get that driven deep into your neurology in the next 6 days, but we can try, okay? So good snacks, your daughter said avocados are great. Like if you like, I like things like a protein smoothie, something like that. Like if you're needing something, and you can make that fun and tasty and put all kinds of good stuff in it, right? Hey, sometimes I eat stuff and people are like, you eat that? And I'm like, it's good for me. You can either eat to live or live to eat, right? So I eat to live, right? Good full fat Greek yogurt. Add a little stevia maybe, a little vanilla, whatever else you want in there to kind of give it some peanut butter or from some berries, and you get a little bit of a good snack there. So again, that clean protein, good fat combo is going to help you if you need that snack at the end of the night. She's like, why did I bring my daughter? Just over here throwing me under the bus. So next one, this one might seem a little bit obvious, but limiting caffeine, okay? I touched on this a moment ago. Like, I don't think it's bad to have a cup of coffee, but if you're addicted to the point that like you have to have it just to function, right? I am certain that there are days, like there's days I get up, I go work out early, and I get home. By the time I get home from my workout, the kids are up and it's time to get them ready and get them off to school and help do that and breakfast and all that. And sometimes it's like, I've been up since 5, it's 9 o'clock, I haven't had my coffee yet. I know I'm not like struggling to function without my caffeine. If you're struggling to function though, that's a problem. And so you want to start to limit that in 2 capacities. One, we definitely want our caffeine, if we're going to have it, earlier in the day, before noon. Right? We don't want to be, pouring that 3rd or 4th or 5th cup of coffee at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. That's not a good sign. And it's going to directly affect our sleep. The effects of caffeine can oftentimes, depending on how well your body metabolizes it, can last up to 12 hours. So that change and that shift in your physiology can still be affected 12 hours later. So if you're not done drinking your coffee at 3 in the afternoon and you wonder why you're seeing the alarm clock at 2 o'clock in the morning, it's because you're still struggling from those effects, potentially. So you want to minimize it. If you're really struggling, you may need to kick it all together. I know some people that, again, as they've evaluated, they're really taking inventory of their physiology and how they're sensitive to certain things. They start to recognize, you know what? I don't sleep good if I have coffee at all. I don't have energy. I crash even if I just have 1 cup early in the morning. I'm crashing all the time. And so they make the tough, wise decision to cut it out entirely. And that's different for everybody when it comes, I believe, specifically for caffeine, because a lot of people do respond quite differently to it. But we want to make sure that this isn't becoming something that you have to have just to function. And if you're really struggling to sleep, it may be worth considering cutting it out entirely, at least for a season, letting your body clear of all of it and kind of recover, so to speak. And then if you want to reintroduce it and see how it affects you, like, because that's the only way to gauge it. If you're doing it every day for years, you really don't even know how it's affecting you anymore until you make kind of a clean slate. Does that make sense to everybody? So that's something to think about. Another one, limiting alcohol. Alcohol in general, obviously not a great thing. I don't think I have to go into the effects of alcohol specifically. But in this case, pertaining to sleep, alcohol has the ability, again, it's a stress to the body, right? And depending on how much you consume, what time you consume it specifically, et cetera, whether it's a stressor that your body is now having to deal with, detoxing and metabolizing the alcohol through the night, you're not going to get that good, clean, restful sleep, number one. Number two is if you're over-consuming it, right, then you're actually not getting any good sleep. You're actually passed out. And we might not think of it like that, right? You're like, I didn't like passed out. That's like he was sitting there and then all of a sudden he was hunched over in his chair or something. No. You can be perfectly capable of walking yourself to your room and getting yourself ready for bed and then passing out versus actually going to sleep and getting good restorative sleep. Alcohol turns into sugar, right? It stresses your body in a very similar manner as it's metabolized. So you get the insulin response and the cortisol spike and all the things. And if you happen to be having a good time drinking alcohol, right? Nothing wrong with a little indulgence, I think, once in a while. But if you happen to be having a good time and hanging out and you're being, joyous and merry and so on, of course that has the potential to affect your sleep. So again, that I don't think anyone in this room is struggling to the extent that you're having a good social hour every single night or multiple days a week. But if you find yourself there, that could be a component of it. Make sense to everybody? Okay. So working out. We have to exercise our body. I touched on this again in my own personal experience. But one study found that 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous exercise per week resulted in a 65% improvement in quality of sleep. So it doesn't just improve sleep because exercise makes you tired and you sleep better, so to speak. But what it does is it removes an interference. We're designed for movement. It changes our physiology in a positive way. Again, circadian rhythm, right? The rhythm. We're designed to wake up and go get it for the day, get after it, do something, move our body, right? Sweat a little bit, get the heart rate up. That's the normal rhythm. If you don't do that, it's almost like your body doesn't even realize that it's been awake. Right? You've been up for 12 hours, 14 hours, whatever it is, but you haven't moved your body enough to trigger your brain and your nerve system and your physiology to go, oh, we're awake. And we're like taking on the world. And then as the day moves on, now it's time to rest again. Does that make some sense? You have a genetic requirement for function and movement. And to ignore that because we're busy or we're tired. That's one of the big ones, right? We're not sleeping good. Now we're too tired to exercise. You know how you break that cycle? You exercise when you're tired. You suck it up and do it anyway because it's the only way to reset the pattern. You're not going to reset the pattern by sleeping more, right? The only way to reset the pattern is to go in the other extreme, which is to move your body even when you don't feel like it, even when you're tired and exhausted. Moving your body in the morning has a better metabolic effect. So we actually have higher growth hormone and testosterone responses to exercise early in the day, which then helps increase metabolic function, increase lean muscle growth. And it's not about building big, strong muscles, But again, our body's constantly healing and regenerating and repairing. And so why do we sometimes lose muscle mass as we age? It's not just because we're getting older, but we stop moving our body for extended periods of time, meaning years or decades, and then we're shocked that our muscle mass has gone down when we haven't triggered the testosterone and growth hormone responses and so on that should come with natural physical exercise. 100, 150 years ago or more, we didn't have to worry about this because everybody got a significant amount of physical activity just day to day. Almost no one does that anymore. Even a lot of guys, they come in like, I get physical activity at my job. And I'm like, do you? Does your heart rate spike at some point? And your respiration really gets higher? Well, no, but I get like 15,000 steps. I go, that ain't exercise. I hate to break it to you. Exercise means you're challenging your body's physiology to work harder. Because all the guys who come in and tell me how much exercise they get at work inevitably look like this. I get lots of exercise. I'm like, do you? So that's not contributing. This isn't contributing to your problem in any capacity. That's not what my 15 to 20 years of studying the human body and physiology tell me, but what do I know? So exercise period. So morning exercise is best. Second best is anytime. Get moving. More vigorous, the better result. But you might be sitting here like, I don't even know how to go about. Start. I was making some jokes about getting your 15,000 steps, but it is a starting point for a lot of people. Get up, move, go for a walk, right? And then you start to increase the intensity of the walk. And then you get a little help or advice, or you come to one of our workouts that we do for patients here at the office for free, right? And you have Dr. Lou or one of the team members actually help you, challenge you, show you how to push yourself into that next zone so that you can see improvement. So, got to start moving. And then this is a really cool piece of the puzzle here is sunlight. So again, go back to a more primitive time, if you will, where we didn't have cell phones and alarm clocks, and we didn't have to get up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning because we got to get dressed while it's still dark outside because we got to drive an hour to work, and then we work in an office cubicle somewhere all day long where we don't actually see sunlight, and then by the time we walk outside, it's dark outside and we haven't seen the sun all day. That was a non-existent experience 100 years ago. When did people used to get up? Historically, throughout all of human history, when did people wake up? When the sun came up. When the sun started peeking through the window, people would wake up. When did they go to bed? When it got dark, because guess what we didn't have? We didn't have lights, right? You might light a fire, right? But when there's no Netflix and Facebook and TikTok and all these other things to keep you wired and awake all night, what happens? You just go to bed. It's dark. I think I'm going to go to bed. What time are you getting up? I think I'll get up when the sun comes up. That was a normal existence, 100 years ago or better, okay? Now, why is that important? How does that affect us? Because I know that's not your existence, and we can't change all of society. You might still have to get up at 4 or 5 and have some of that experience that I was joking about. But what can we do? We can make a conscious effort early in the morning, at some point in the first couple hours of the day. It's important, and when I say first couple hours, I mean first couple hours of daylight. It's important for you to get your eyeballs on the morning sunlight. Seeing the red light, there's different hues. Everybody, you ever notice how the light, you would think logically, right, that the sun coming up and the sun going down would have a very similar effect on the lighting, God bless you, that you see in the world, right? Did you ever notice how sunrise and sunset have radically different tones and hues and so on? Anybody else ever think about that? Stanley, I can't believe you, of all people, never thought about something like that. It's just how it is, right? It just is. Which is fine, but now we live in a world where we got to think about these things. So why does this matter? So growing up dairy farming, up before the sun, always outside, the sun was going down, deer hunting, getting out in my deer stand before the sun. I get to sit there and just watch this stuff, and this is what my brain does, right? But then you actually look into it and you start studying and you find out there's actually a physiological change that happens when your eyes see that morning sunlight. It's almost like someone wired it that way, right? And so you see that morning light, and it triggers your body to know that it's morning, and that it's time to wake up and get going, and that your physiology and that rhythm should flow, that it's up. We're moving from dark and sleep into, even if you woke up before the sun, because I'm sure plenty of people did that back in the day, they still got up early, but then they saw the sunlight come up because they weren't watching TV or playing on Facebook or in their cubicle. So the sun came up and it told them, hey, the rhythm's changing. It's time to go. It's time to work. It's time to move your body. And then as the sun moves through the sky, and throughout the day isn't quite as important in this rhythm, but then in the evening time, same thing. Making sure that you get your eyes on that sunlight as the sun's going down the last hour or so of the day, even if for a little bit. It triggers your body to recognize that change in the daylight, and that works with your physiology to say, hey, it's time to shift. We're starting to calm down. We're moving into a restful state. It's time to go to sleep soon. And that's a very broad, complicated process that I simplified quite a bit. Because probably you guys don't want the neurological, physiological, hormone, neurotransmitter lesson this evening, do you? No, I didn't think so. But that's what happens. Okay, so getting your eyes on the sunlight throughout the day is crucial. It doesn't have to be outside, right? You can look through the window, but making sure that you get a glimpse of the sun early in the morning and later in the evening, if just for a few minutes, will help set your rhythm. Okay, the other part of that is that getting good sunlight on your skin also helps us make what? Vitamin D, crucial. It's actually considered a hormone in your body. Your body has the ability to make it on its own. We don't necessarily need supplementation if everything's working like it should, but because we're sick and deficient and we don't get enough sunlight, we oftentimes, need to supplement with that. But so you can see how sunlight is such a crucial component to our bodies working the way that it should, okay? So that's a really big one. That's really easy to control. Again, you don't have to buy it. You don't have to pay for it. It doesn't take a lot of energy. You don't have to go somewhere and pay a membership. You just got to get your eyeballs outside for part of the day, okay? So nutritionally, there's a couple of things. We've kind of hit on some of this already. We got to eliminate a lot of the sugars and carbs. Just, again, from a sleep standpoint, it puts our body into a stressed physiological state. And this isn't a nutrition class, so I know a lot of you are looking around the room. Raise your hand if you've been to a nutrition 101. Perfect. Okay. And if you haven't, or it's been quite a while, and you feel like you could use a refresher, again, with all the holidays coming up, not a great time to sit people down and go, don't eat all these things, eat all these, right? So we're going to wait, because I'm not dumb, all right? And I'm not going to jam a square peg in a round hole. But January 14th, Tuesday, January 14th, will be our first Nutrition 101. And I'm going to call it Nutrition 2.0. So even if you've been to nutrition class, I think we're going to work on hitting a few new things. And so it's going to be valuable for just about everybody who wants to attend that. And I think we're going to give you an opportunity. The girls are coming around here in a second. If you know you've never been to Nutrition 101, or it's been a while and you need to get to one, you can get plugged into that. There's a couple of things. It'll be 6:30. It'll be in the evening here. We're going to send a sign-up sheet around, and if you sign up, we'll remind you and give you all the info as it draws closer. So there's a couple of things that I do want to talk about. So we talk about the toxins that get in the brain and cause the plaquing and all those problems. One of the most toxin-dominant places that we can ingest this junk is through animal products. And so things like dairy, eggs, meat, poultry, obviously, right? So those sorts of things, if you're going to consume them, quality over quantity. If you can't, and of course, those things tend to be a little more of an investment than the cheaper things, the conventional things, right? We had this conversation the other day, right? And one of the things I'd say when it comes to animal products is, if you can't afford the highest quality in that arena, then I would work to reduce how much of that you're consuming, at least for a season, because of the amount of toxicity that's affiliated with those things, right? The bioaccumulation that comes with animal products. And so if you're saying, well, I can't afford so much grass-fed meat, or, organic grass-fed dairy, or cage, pasture-raised 100% free range chicken and eggs, then I would reduce the amount of that I'm consuming, and I would consume more fruits and veggies and good fats that might be a little bit more budget friendly at times. If you're working to increase that and make sure that you're getting plenty, one of the things that I encourage patients to do is doing a protein smoothie. We talked about that a moment ago, and you held up the one that you said you don't like. You should try ours. It probably tastes better. And so, there's no protein in it. It's just a simple, yeah, you're good. She's like, this one's making me. Raise your hand if your kids make you eat better. I got one. Raise your hand if you made your kids eat better. See, that's called karma. Eat your vegetables. And all of a sudden you're like retirement age and you're like needing some help from your kids. And they're like, Mom, you got to eat your vegetables. Sorry, that just came to me. Sometimes the Holy Spirit just speaks. Good protein. So yeah, you can pass those around. We're going to pass a couple clipboards around, give you guys an opportunity to sign up for the nutrition class. I know it's a little ways off. Maybe you don't know your schedule. If you're just interested, you're like, hey, I think I'd like to come to that, sign up. We'll remind you. We'll send you some info, and we'll confirm as it gets a little bit closer. So don't let that be a reason you don't at least sign up if you're interested. So one of the things I encourage people to do is do a smoothie. And you can do a smoothie in a handful of ways. You can do it as a snack. You can do a partial smoothie. You can do it as a meal replacement. But getting good quality protein, again, is going to reduce the stress on the body. And it's going to fuel our body. We talk about getting good sleep, healing, and repairing. Well, every organ in your body, every muscle in your body, a good majority of what makes up your skin, your hair, your nails, your eyes, is protein. If we don't consume good quality protein, we can't heal and repair. I always say it like this. The master control system in the body is like the world's greatest carpenter. It can rebuild anything, but it still needs lumber and nails. You still got to give it the building blocks, right? So if we don't give it the right building blocks, we can't repair. And so one of the things I encourage people to do is to do a smoothie. We have a couple of different options for that. And our proteins right now are on sale. 15% off is that what we're doing? Yeah, for the Christmas sale. And so send that back that way. Behind you, Jimmy. I think they both came across this way and moved forward. Thank you. So all of our proteins are 15% off. So we have 5 different ones. We have a vegan option. We have bone broth and whey, and then the bone broth and whey are in vanilla and chocolate. So 4 options total. What I really like about our proteins is everything we've talked about so far nutritionally, minimizing toxins, make sure we've got good quality nutrition. All of that's built in. So all of our proteins now come from regenerative farms. Again, we started off like if you could just live in alignment with the way that God designed you, everything would work great. That's what we're doing on our regenerative farms. We're managing the land from a way. We don't have to add in artificial fertilizers. We don't have to do all of these things, right? We're allowing this co-op, if you will, between the farmers, the animals, and the soil to actually just regenerate itself the way that it was designed to. And what that does long term is it ensures that you're getting the most nutrient dense, God bless you, soil you possibly can, which in turn those nutrients make their way into the plants. So if we're harvesting some sort of nutrient for a supplement or whatever, we're going to get the best. If that plant gets consumed by an animal, which turns into a bone broth or a whey protein or whatever, again, we're getting the most nutrient dense stuff we possibly can. And we're not trying to add in a bunch of artificial or tweak or screw with the formula or all these things. We're just letting it work the way God designed it to. That's the best possible way that you can take care of yourself. And that's what we do with all of our products. And so highly encourage you, if you're struggling to eat better, it's a simple way to get started and make sure you're giving your body what it needs. And then magnesium. Magnesium is just a crucial nutrient. So I said at the beginning, I want to clarify, you can't over supplement poor sleep. That's not what I'm doing here when I tell you you need to be on a good magnesium. Magnesium is a key nutrient that your body needs to operate properly. And there's a big difference between I'll supplement to offset my crappy lifestyle and poor diet versus I'm going to make sure that due to the environment we live in, where not everything we eat comes from a high-quality regenerative farm right down the road, that I'm going to make sure I get the key nutrients into my body to give it what it needs to operate at its full potential. I can tell you, magnesium plays a role in over 200 different functions and physiological chemistry reactions in the body. several of those contribute to how well we sleep at night. That circadian rhythm, the hormone and neurotransmitter cycles, and so on. And so if we're deficient there, it's going to affect our sleep. And it's one of those few things where it's like, if you're not sleeping well and we're starting to do a lot of the other things well, then magnesium is oftentimes one of the missing links for that. So that's specifically, I want to highlight that there. The last thing I'll say before I move out of this portion is, and I've been talking about it here in the office the last couple weeks as we're talking about our Christmas sale for our supplements, is if you're taking magnesium already or you're not and you need to add it, and you're taking things like a multivitamin or a vitamin D, I talked about our essentials packs. Can you grab a box? Just let me kind of show everybody. Our essentials packs, where we've got some of those most important key nutrients that the majority of people are missing, some or all of these key nutrients. And so in that, we've got your magnesium, we've got your vitamin D with probiotics, so it's a 2-in-1, which helps with digestion and absorption and so on. Then we've also got our omega, so if you're taking an omega supplement, a fish oil, that's in here. We've got, what else? I'll make sure I get everything. We've got our B complex, which is really, really important for a lot of things, especially nerve system health. And then the multivitamin. So we've got a men's multi or a women's multi for each of you respectively. And so what we've done with this, what's cool about that is, again, 80 to 90% of people are deficient in all or nearly all of these things, these key nutrients. And so then people are running around and doing what? Well, I got to get this fish oil, and I'll get this vitamin D over here, and then I got to count out your supplements every darn day. Annoying. Absolutely annoying. Anybody taking these? Anybody? Several of you guys, yeah. Right? What's the best part? You open this up, and inside here's a little packet with all of that in it. Stick that in your pocket. You're out the door. Right? And I'm good to go. I throw it in my backpack, and I'm good to go. And in doing that, the other thing, besides counting out all those things, do you know how much you pay for the bottle that comes in? There's a fee for that. They have to pay for the packaging, the manufacturer does. When we package it like this, much, much more cost effective, why we started doing that. So if you're sitting there and you're like, I'm already taking like 3 out of the 4 things he said, whether it's ours or somebody else's, there's a good chance, number one, that you can save money by doing the packet. Number two, you're going to increase quality. So the last thing I'll say about that and move on is, if you're taking the $5 3-year supply from Costco, I'm not bashing on Costco, but there's a reason why your 3-year supply costs you $5. Because you probably got what kind of quality? The best of the best? Or are we scraping the bottom of the barrel? And so you might be saving money, but you might actually be throwing more money away because you're not getting anything out of it.
Do you do any liquids?
Yes, we do have some different liquid ones. We have some different things if you're like taking capsules as a challenge. Talk to you about that sort of stuff one-on-one. Yeah, for sure. So anyways, encourage you guys to get those. I think we're doing, for our Christmas sale, all products are 10% off protein, and these are 15% off for tonight. If you throw the magnesium in there individually or whatever, 15% off that as well, and then 10% off everything else in alignment with our Christmas sale. So you can get all that stuff on the way out. Stock up. Give yourself the gift of health for Christmas. Okay. Next thing. Nighttime routine, okay? It's important, again, rhythm. We keep coming back to it, rhythm, okay? Consistency, like I get my kids to bed, I hang out with my wife, I lay my clothes out for the next day, I take out my contacts, I brush my teeth, I make sure my alarm is set for the morning before the sun comes up. Totally antithetical to everything I told you so far. But that's so I can get up and exercise and see the sun come up and get the early morning sunlight, okay? I have a system and a rhythm. Is it perfect? Is it always exactly the same? No, because I have 3 kids. But it's relatively consistent. So a couple of things that we want to talk about. We can, again, unintentionally be making choices that negatively impact our sleep and not even realize it because it's just the world we live in. So, a couple of things. Dimming the lights an hour or so before you go to bed. So when we're having dinner and I'm chasing kids around and we're getting kids ready for bed and putting them in their PJs and brushing their teeth and all the things, we got all the lights on. And if I don't have all the lights on, my kids just go, turn the lights on. Like they can't walk into a room or out of a room without making sure all the light switches are kicked on before they go through the doorway, right? So all the lights are on. Once the kids are in bed and me and my wife are just hanging out, we have a couple of lamps in our living room and in our bedroom that are in the corners. And the light is much dimmer and softer. And again, that's working in alignment with, hey, the sun's gone down. I need my brain to know that it's time to wind down and go to sleep. And if I've got the middle of the day light shining on me from my overhead lights in my living room, my body's not going to think it's time to go to sleep. So we start to turn the lights down. Turning off distractions. What are distractions? The biggest distraction you have that you need to shut off or get away from is this. You want to make sure you don't go to sleep at night. Look at social media or YouTube or watch whatever on your phone before you try to go to bed. And I will guarantee you won't sleep as good. And there's a multitude of reasons, one of which is the blue light, again, antithetical to these light patterns that we've been talking about. Number two, it's a slightly like, I don't want to say it's fight or flight, but it kind of is. It's similar. It's like you're getting these dopamine hits and you're like changing your neurotransmitter. Ooh, what's that? Oh, what's that? Oh, what are they doing? And you've got all these thoughts going a million miles an hour and you're bombarding your brain with information and there's no way it can go into a rest and digest state of being. So turning specifically, I believe, now the science may or may not directly agree with this, but personal experience warrants a certain level of value. I would argue that watching a little television at the evening is not nearly as bad as that darn thing. Not even close. Because I can fall asleep watching some TV with the best of them. All right, and then wake up and be like, time for bed. And within minutes, I'm in bed sleeping again, okay? Not with those darn things. I've done this. Man, I'm so tired. I think I'll just sit here for a few minutes and then I'll go to bed. And 45 minutes later, I'm like, I'm normally in bed 20 minutes ago. Why am I still awake? And I'm wired. I'm not ready for bed at all because I'm on that thing, okay? Beat that to death. Keep it quiet. Turn the volume down. These sorts of things. Slow down. Sit. Relax. Like there should be a period of time where like the day is done and I'm going to relax before I try and lay in bed. Because part of that slowing down and that relaxing, like I said it a moment ago, my clothes are laid out, my alarm clock is set, like all those things that might cause me to be laying in bed and go, oh, I forgot. Oh, I got so many things to do tomorrow. Am I going to get it all done? Did I do this? I have a rhythm to make sure that all those things are checked off the list so I don't put myself into a stressed fight or flight response as I'm trying to go to sleep. Or wake up in the middle of the night because your body's trying to protect you. I forgot. It's 2 o'clock in the morning and I forgot to do this thing, right? Making sure that you've got stuff ready for tomorrow. I mean, to the extent that my wife's better in some areas than I, like the coffee pot's ready to go and the cup you like is there and the keys are here and my water bottle, like if I'm getting up and going out the door to work out, my workout clothes are ready, my clothes for the office are ready. After that, my water bottle is filled. So in the morning, my workout shoes are there on the fireplace. I come out dressed in my workout clothes. I sit on the fireplace. I put my shoes on. I grab my water bottle. I know where my key is. I can go to bed stress-free because I'm 100% certain the things I need first thing in the morning are taken care of. But you can't do that if you're like, what am I going to wear tomorrow? Right? And we might not think about what am I going to wear tomorrow, but we're stressed and our body innately knows that we're not ready to take on the world tomorrow. So doing those little things and getting that rhythm. Reading. Read a book. Read your Bible. Read something that's going to make you better, that's going to make life better, personal development. Read a storybook if you want. Actually, there's some research that says that reading fun stuff is better in the evening than things that are making you think, like a personal development. I would argue for most people, any reading versus a cell phone or a TV is going to be better, okay? All of this is going to help us, again, reduce that cortisol and those stress hormones and, again, stimulate our body's natural production. We don't need to supplement with melatonin This is all going to help our body actually produce that natural, it's going to keep that rhythm, that cycle. Melatonin production starts to go up as the lights go down, as things get calmer and quieter, and you're, hey, I got all my stuff ready to go tomorrow. I'm ready to take on the world, so I know I can go to sleep and get a good night of rest. Another thing you can do, take a bath or a shower in the evening. I know a lot of people like to shower in the morning. It kind of helps you wake up and get going, and there's nothing wrong with that. Maybe you do both. You know, if you're really trying to put yourself into a relaxing state, and consider a detox bath, a bath with Epsom salts, things like lavender oil, things that are going to help calm and relax your body and to get you into that state. And then when you get out of the shower or the tub, actually your core temperature is going to go up from the hot water and everything, right? From being in there for a moment. That cooling effect will actually help your body get into a more relaxed, restful state as it starts to cool down. And I don't know if I put this in here later on, but I'm just going to mention it now, so don't forget. Setting the temperature in your house cooler. Solid research showing you that 69 degrees or less is ideal for sleeping. If we're hot, we tend to not sleep. It doesn't mean you have to be cold, but the environment should be cool, and you can be snuggled up under the covers. That actually helps. And just like we talked about the lights going dim, your sleep environment as dark as you can get it. My wife and I debate this because she likes the sheer curtains in the bedroom, and I'm like, but we sleep better if it's dark. And she's like, but you're sleeping and you don't know if, and I'm like, yes, I do. What kind of curtains do you think we got in the bedroom? Sheer curtains. We talked about the phone and things like that. Specifically, my point here, if you're on the phone in the evening, if you're watching TV in the evening, the place to watch that is not in your bed. What fires together, wires together. If your body and brain are used to being awake, engaging in something like surfing the web, watching television in the place you're supposed to be sleeping, guess what happens when you try to go to sleep? Your body goes, this isn't where we sleep. This is where we watch Netflix. This is where we fight about politics on social media. I've never done that. I'll be honest with you, side note, this wasn't a part of this talk at all. I deleted my Facebook app the other day for a handful of reasons, but it's been nice. I haven't had it for like a week. I'm not entirely off of Facebook. I'll get on, but the act of having to go to my computer to get on it radically reduces my getting on it. I literally only get on it now like functionally for work and things like that. Highly encourage you all to consider that. But not doing those things in your bedroom, really important. Make your bed. One study found that making your bed each morning improves your likelihood of better sleep by 19%. Just a habit of making the bed. Again, the environment you're creating supports sleep. Walking into your bed. I never made my bed when I was younger. I still don't. My wife does. She gets the sheer curtains. She gets to make the bed. No, I'm just kidding. I said with you, I'm like, I'm just going to get back in. When I was a single man and nobody else was going to my bedroom but me, and I really didn't care, I was like, who cares? I'm just going to get in and mess up the covers again tomorrow night anyway, right? I get it. That's not what the science says, okay? And it makes sense. Again, calm, peaceful, relaxing. Walking into a clean environment, the bed is made, it looks pretty, right? That actually, again, helps you get into this idea of like, okay, then I go over there, I pull the covers back, the bed's clean, except for if my kids crawled in my bed at some point, because we do have a TV in our bedroom, not because we watch TV right before bed, but sometimes if you're not feeling good and you're in there, or like if the kids want to watch a little TV and mom needs a nap or something like that, she can put a show on quietly and she can take a little nap in the middle of the day, right? So we have that. But then there's like crumbs in the bed. And so if mom's in there taking a nap, right, where does she sleep? Well, the same place she always sleeps. So where are all the crumbs? So that's not so relaxing. There's been a few nights where I pull the covers like, son of a... You guys get it. All right. Again, rhythm, consistent timing. You should be going to bed around the same time. You should be getting up around the same time as often as you possibly can. We talked about at the beginning, if your getting up at 5 o'clock all week long and then you're sleeping until 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock on the weekend, it's going to screw up your rhythm. Now, some of you might be saying, but I get up so early, I want to sleep in a little bit during the week. I would argue that you're better off getting a little bit of a nap at some point on the weekend, whenever possible, versus screwing up your rhythm, right? Because there's a time for rest. There was a book written where it talks about this rhythm. So like there's a 7th day where you rest. It's like an owner's manual for your body. Just a thought. So resting on that day, getting a nap on that day, I believe will not interfere with your rhythm. So long, now don't go sleep for 3 hours in a day. That might mess up your rhythm. If I'm talking a nap, if I'm talking like a 20, 30 minutes, maybe an hour, okay? Don't sleep all day. But you get it, okay? And then removing the interferences, your stressors and your nerve system. And here's how stress impacts the brain. So when the body perceives stress, we've talked a little bit about this, it releases certain hormones. We get that cortisol change, right? And so if we've got high levels of stress, whether they're consciously perceived or not, we're going to change the physiology and the hormones and the neurotransmitters. That will affect our ability to get into that rest and digest state of being. I said perceived or not, right? And so I'm going to skip over this slide because it's kind of silly. But how we sleep, the position we sleep in, can actually stress our body. Raise your hand if you sleep on your back on your rolls. You got a couple hands going up. Okay, good. A couple of good patients. I don't know about some of you. There's a position we should sleep in. As a chiropractor, I think sometimes patients, well, you want to sleep that way because it's like good for my spine. But actually think about it. What's controlling that circadian rhythm? Where's that circadian rhythm live, so to speak? In my bicep? No. Where does it live? In your nerve system, in your brain. That's where the circadian rhythm lives. It's a part of your brain. It's wired deep in there. There's actually a part of the brain they've identified that they say this is what sets the circadian rhythm. So the brain's ability to then communicate to the body to put it, how do you get into that rested state? How do you slow down the heart rate and slow down the respiration and all those things? You have to be in a restful state, and you need your brain communicating to your body to tell the other important parts of the body that it is time to be in that rested state. So when you lay down appropriately on your back with your neck rolls like we teach you to do, what you're doing is you're actually helping to shape and mold and put the spine into a more ideal alignment so you get better communication throughout the body, which allows you to get in that restful sleeping state. Does that make some sense to everybody? So now my biggest complaint I get is that's not comfortable. I don't like that. Do it long enough and it becomes more comfortable. I can promise you for most people. Now I have some patients who are like, Doc, I've been coming to see you for 10 years. I get my rolls out every night, and after 20 minutes, I'm not asleep and I toss them. Okay, fine. But you're at least trying. Okay? So the best position to sleep in is on your back with your rolls to support your natural curves in your spine so that your nerve system can fire properly and be in a rested state. Because what I missed there for you is, this does what to my nerve system, you think? If this is my sleep position, what's that doing to my spine? Is my nerve system resting and relaxed, or is it under stress and tension, physical stress and tension? For hours and hours. And then you wake up and you're like, I didn't sleep good and my back hurts. Fix me, Dr. Lou. It's like, well, geez. Sleeping on your belly with a pillow, so you don't sleep like this, right? What do? Turn your head 90 degrees and stick a pillow under it so it's like this. I can't imagine why my neck hurts. I have no idea. I sleep like this every night. I have for 30 years. I have no idea why my neck hurts. On your back with your rolls is ideal. Sleeping on your side with your spine in a neutral position. So I'm sleeping on my left shoulder. I need a pillow that's going to keep my head here, not let it sink, not crank it back up the other way. Okay? Outside of that, this is where I said if you lay on your rolls for 20 minutes and then toss them and go. Outside of those two, whatever position helps you actually sleep is the next best position, okay? So I get it. Some of you, it's like, again, you've been sleeping that way for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. It's the most comfortable. So we do have to find that state of comfort to get rest, and that's okay too. But we want to attempt to create a sleep position that's more ideal for restoration.
How important is the mattress?
Crucial. Very important. We got a thing for all of you. Thank you. I knew I meant to put something else in the folder and I totally forgot. I thought about it a couple weeks ago. I was like, oh, we should tell the girls. But we have a mattress company that we recommend because of the products they use and how they make them, and it's non-toxic, so you're not off-gassing junk into your brain all night while you sleep. And they have different ones, different styles and things like that. And they actually have a showroom over in Dallas. So get a whole stack of them and give one to everybody. Well, to a degree, comfort level is important there. That's why I encourage people to go to a showroom, right? So a lot of people go online and order a mattress because someone said it was good. And that's okay, I guess. But I would want to go lay on it for like a good 15 to 20 minutes, like lay there. That's their job. That's like coming in here and saying, hey, Dr. Bryan, I have a health question for you, but I don't want to ask because I don't want to bother you. It's like, it's literally what you pay me for. It's to coach you in health. I get it. Well, that's what I'm saying. So unless you lay on it, you don't know. You can't
Do you choose hard, medium, soft?
I opt for somewhere in the middle, more medium. The reason being, too soft doesn't support your spine. Too hard, you might as well lay on the floor. That's no good either, right? So you've got to get that, again, curve support and comfort level.
What about those number beds?
Well, again, so part of that comfort level is going to be what's comfortable to you might not be the same as comfortable to me. So the only way to know is to try. And a lot of places, by the way, the thing the girls are passing out, if you choose to go get a new mattress or look into it, take that with you. Shh. A lot of chatter all of a sudden. We'll be here all night if you don't let me finish. Take this with you. You'll get a discount if you buy something, okay? And I was going to say something else, and then I lost it because there was too much side chatter. I forget. I'll think of it later. Yes, that's what I was saying. You get a discount if you take that with you. That's part of it. Don't remember what else I was going to say with that. Something. I'll think of it. Otherwise, it wasn't that important, I guess. So, okay. So wrapping up here. So why does sleep position matter? I kind of already showed you that and made a couple of jokes about it. But the position, the alignment of the spine and nerve system has a lot to do with the overall, it has everything to do with the function of the body. Sleep and our circadian rhythm is a normal function. All function is controlled by the brain and nerve system. If your nerve system's interfered with, we talk about removing interference, getting your body back to a normal, healthy state of being. What allows the circadian rhythm, what controls the fight or flight, we've been talking about fight or flight versus rest and digest all night long. That is a neurological state of existence, fight or flight versus rest and digest. Without a healthy spine and nerve system, you can't possibly be in an ideal resting state. You also can't possibly be in the best state to get out of the burning building if you don't have a healthy spine. If the building's on fire, I want a bunch of people that see their chiropractor to make sure we all get out of here, okay? Not, the guy who's doing this, right? I'll help you, Stan. Stan's got a boot on his foot. I'll help Stan out. Why? I know my heart rate's going to respond appropriately. My body's going to respond appropriately. I'm going to be in the most physically ideal state to get out the door. And if I need to, take some of you with me to make sure that we can all get out of here okay. But if you don't have a healthy nerve system, that's impossible. Go back to where we started. Good sleep over time allows our brain to stay healthier, which decreases our neurodegeneration. neurodegenerative diseases. A healthy alignment allows proper fight or flight, rest and digest fluctuations and rhythms. What am I getting at? Getting adjusted. Right now, some of you that are here in your 30s, 40s, 50s, maybe a few 60s,
Keep going.
70s. No, y'all look so young and healthy. You probably get adjusted. That decreases your likelihood of neurodegenerative diseases 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years down the road from now. Just, that's not my opinion, guys. That's based on the science we've talked about so far, and I'm going to show you some more. This is what we've been talking about so far, right? This is what we've been reviewing, okay? You have to have a healthy nervous system. This guy, neurologist, crazy looking dude. Watch this. Watch what he has to say. And his stupid ads. Oh no, okay. Thought I was going to get another ad.
Hi, my name is Dr. Ross Hauser. Welcome to Caring Medical Florida in Fort Myers, Florida. I'm getting more and more people coming in complaining of brain fog.
Let's speed this guy up because he talks so
They have
slow.
Alzheimer's and they're only like 22 years old. And they'll go to various doctors and they test them in their blood, food allergies, do MRIs of the brain or the neck, and nothing shows up. The cause of this brain fog, this mental decline, this emotional state, this dissociation, like not even feeling like they're a normal person. And I've even had patients describe it as a dumbness. They feel like dumb, like they can't find words. The cause of this is an obstruction of cerebral spinal fluid, and I liken cerebral spinal fluid as toilet water. Now, it's easy to understand how cervical instability can cause a decrease in the blood supply to the brain. Like this is the vertebral artery, and it's actually in the cervical vertebrae. Not only does there have to be a good blood supply into the brain, there has to be a good drainage system out of the brain. You might say, well, why is that? Well, basically, when you look at a cell phone or a computer and there's all that visual stimuli, that causes a lot of metabolic activity in the brain, and the neurons poop basically, the neurons poop, or they have metabolic waste products that have to be removed from the brain. Imagine if the brain can't drain that toilet water. So that's why I call it brain toilet obstruction. If you can't drain all those toxins out of the brain, they're going to start damaging the neurons. You're going to actually get neuron cell death. And that neuron cell death and that pressure build up in the brain starts destroying brain neurons and actual brain tissue. And we have even in young people showing that that there's hypoperfusion, or there's different parts of the brain that have decreased metabolic activity and is getting damaged from this obstruction of cerebral spinal fluid flow and the obstruction in the veins. The veins that drain the brain are the internal jugular vein and the vertebral veins. Those veins typically are obstructed in the higher part of the cervical region, especially about C1. So a person who has C0, C1, or C1, C2 instability basically is going to get obstruction of the brain venous lymphatic drainage. This causes an increase in the pressure inside the brain, and eventually it can cause brain neuron death. Fortunately, there's a treatment for it. So if we resolve the cervical destructure, or the destruction or destabilization of the neck, and we get the neck curve good, and we resolve the instabilities, then there's the normalization of the flow of the cerebral spinal fluid, and there's the flushing, if you will, of the brain, where the cerebral spinal fluid flow is normal, the blood supply is good because the cervical instability has been resolved, and the outflow of the fluids out of the brain get back to normal, and thus, sometimes very quickly, I've had patients.
Anybody catch that?
Yep.
Cervical dysfunction, what we call subluxation, instability at the top of the neck leads to an effect of blood supply into the brain, and over time, what do you say? How do we fix it? Restoring what? The curve in the neck. The natural, healthy curve in the neck is what this neurologist is doing to solve brain fog issues. What is the difference between brain fog and Alzheimer's? Time. The exact same root cause of I'm forgetful and I can't think of the words and I'm just not myself anymore and I don't quite have the sharpness that I used to have. That's stage one. don't fix the root cause for 20 or 30 years, you'll have a chronic neurodegenerative condition. That's what he just said. What did the lady in the first video talk about? When we sleep at night, cerebral spinal fluid flushes the brain. What did he just talk about? If this is damaged, it affects the flow. Blood and oxygen and nutrients getting up to the brain, waste products getting out of the brain. You getting adjusted for the next 30 or 40 years has so little to do with your headaches, your neck pain, and your back pain. I could spend hours and hours and hours talking about the neurological and physiological effects of chiropractic care. And if we take that a step further, we know getting adjusted positively affects, just getting adjusted, positively affects blood flow into the brain, positively affects CSF flow, positively affects regular healthy heart rate and blood pressure issues, positively affects the immune system. We know that definitively of all kinds of great science and research to show that. That's just getting adjusted at all. And then what did he just say? What did the neurologist say? Fix the instability, put your head weight on and strengthen. Restore the curve. I don't know if you caught that. Some of you guys caught it. I know Stan caught it. Restore the curve were his words, the neurologist. I call this guy one of the best neurologists on the planet because most of them don't talk about this. Restore the curve, we can increase the CSF flow, which allows a better washing of the brain, flushing of the toilet, detoxing, and our chronic disease rates start to go significantly down as we maintain brain health, nerve system, and that ultimately affects the function and the healing of every other cell and organ in your body. I know I'm mostly preaching to the choir in this room, so a lot of you guys are getting adjusted. A lot of you guys have been getting adjusted for quite some time. But like, when you guys, sometimes people like, he talks about like chiropractic, get adjusted, it's like the answer for everything. It's at least a piece of the puzzle. At the very least, it's a piece of the puzzle. And I'm not the only crazy person saying it. I mean, we've got great other doctors in different fields, different researchers proving what we've been teaching since 1895 in the chiropractic profession. It's not a good idea to get adjusted. It's crucial to care for your nerve system if you want to be well. And if we extrapolate that again to not just getting adjusted, but not all chiropractors restore structure or attempt to restore structure. A lot of them are just pounding down the high spots. As we say, where does it hurt? We'll just push there and see if it feels better. We'll do some electrodes or a massage on there and see if it feels better. It's not a bad thing to do some of those things, but if we can go a step further and work to restore optimum structure and improve areas of instability, we increase our long-term results exponentially. Does that make sense to everybody? So for those of you who are getting adjusted, I said it a moment ago, I'm like, this is why you'll get adjusted forever. It's just like, I'm going to eat my vegetables. When am I going to stop? It's like the day I die is probably or the day before will be the last day I eat a vegetable. When will I stop brushing my teeth? When I'm ready for them to rot out, I guess I'll stop brushing them, right? When I'm ready to gain weight and have an unhealthy heart and lung and cardiovascular, then I'll quit exercising, right? I'm going to do those things for the rest of my life because they're important. Am I going to be perfect about it all the time? Probably not. But I'm going to make a very consistent, conscious effort? Absolutely, because it's important. And so, if you're already getting adjusted, I'm double checking my notes here, make sure I didn't miss anything. I get really excited there if you didn't notice. Got it. I hit all the bullet points. Look, I made these nice bullet points, and I just crushed it for you guys. Crushed it. Those of you getting adjusted, keep getting adjusted. Do your rehab. Lay on your rolls. Do you have to be perfect? No, but you be good, consistent, do the best you can, always striving to be a little bit better. Okay, consistency is the biggest thing. It's not about making the quick short term. It's about doing it long term. That's where the best results are. That's why I see patients come to me with some of their best results. They say, I started sleeping better on day one. First adjustment, I started sleeping better. And then 3 years later, they're like, guess what? I got my best thyroid panel I've ever had 3 years later. I haven't done anything except all the things you told me to do. Well, praise God, your body can heal. I didn't do anything special. We just remove the interference, allow the body to heal. That's what it does. That's what it's designed to do. If you're not getting adjusted, get adjusted. Get adjusted somewhere.
Then this past week,
If you live here, come get adjusted by us. If you live somewhere else, let me know where you live. We'll get you adjusted over there. We'll find somebody for you. Ideally, someone who's going to take x-rays, who's going to analyze again for the structure and the instability. Are there instabilities? Does the curve look good? Is your spine straight up and down from the front? Are your hips level at the bottom? These are all crucial components to evaluate. Because now we can be more specific. When he's talking about instability up here, you don't just go wailing on that and hope it gets better. You got to be specific. You got to evaluate it, adjust it appropriately, rehab it appropriately. It's a combination of those things. So you're not getting adjusted, do that. I'll kind of skip past this. This says warning signs, and it's like headaches and digestive issues and blood pressure. And listen, if you have a health concern and you haven't had your nerve system properly evaluated, that's step one. Get an exam, take x-rays. Number two, if you've been evaluated, but you're not currently getting adjusted, get adjusted. Listen, here's the other thing I'll say. I know there's probably one or two people in this room right now who are like, I'd love to get adjusted. I've had several of these conversations in the last couple weeks. I'd love to get adjusted. Have you seen the economy lately, Dr. Bryan? Yes, I have. I get that. So if it's like, I want to do what you recommend, but I can't afford to do, then let's have a real adult conversation about what you could afford to do, and let's find a plan that fits, because doing nothing is a guaranteed way to make sure your problems get worse. That's not hyperbole, that's a fact. I'm gaining weight, but I'm not exercising and I still eat crap. Doing nothing is a guaranteed way to make sure you keep going down that path. My blood pressure is high, I don't exercise, I don't get adjusted, I keep eating crap. Guaranteed it's going to get worse. You have to start taking action. It's the only solution. And it's a multitude of actions. We covered a whole lot of stuff tonight. So if you're sitting there and you're like, I'd like to get adjusted, but I just can't figure, well, then let's have a real conversation about what actually works. You don't need to rot in my backyard because your budget doesn't allow the ideal plan when there is an opportunity to take action. It's like I said in the nutrition earlier. If your budget dictates that you can't afford to buy grass-fed everything, then eat something else that's high quality and avoid the animal products for a little bit. Find a meal plan that fits your budget. Does that make sense? And we're here to help you with that. So, closing that up, you guys have this in your packet. 10 steps to better sleep. So you can take that home with you. Kind of a reminder on top of whatever notes you took. And there's a second slide on there, which was kind of what I went over earlier about like setting that mood in the evening time. So just some primary bullet points that we covered tonight, action steps that you can take home. Again, if you're not getting adjusted currently, you need to be. So if you're a guest here and you've never had your spine evaluated, we want to give you that opportunity. You can stop by the front desk on your way out. I'll help you book your appointment. We'll do your consult, your exam, and a full set of x-rays. It's normally $150. We'll do it for, what are we doing it for right now? 64? Okay, just making sure. We're doing some things, and I'm like, what are we doing? $64. So entire exam, consultation, and your x-rays. We'll analyze everything, and on a second visit, we go over all the results, we lay out recommendations, answer any questions, and that's where if we need to come to terms with the reality that no matter how hard we try, my best recommendation isn't in the budget, then let's have a good conversation. Let's figure out what is. Let's not do nothing as the alternative. Does that make sense to everybody? So if you're a guest here and you need to do that, stop at the front desk. The girls will help you schedule. Other than that, if you've been evaluated maybe recently or in somewhat not that long ago, there's a couple of you in the room that just haven't been getting adjusted for a while though. Like, let's get you back on track. If we need to figure out those details still, talk to the girls, just set up the appointment, and we'll start sitting down, we'll nail it down, we'll find a plan to get you moving, okay? And then lastly, if you need to pick up any resources, do that. Protein, supplements, whatever. Talk to the team, they can help you with that. We'll get that, everything's on discount right now. And if you got specific questions about your unique situation from a nutrition standpoint or anything like that, let us know. We can chat with you, we can answer some questions about that, okay? Where's the clock? How'd I do? Not too bad. 6 minutes over. That's good. Thanks, guys.